So an update came out with Project L, basically saying that they're sending out invites for people to come, test the game out and stuff like that. So I'm sure that NDA is signed, sealed, delivered, and very tight. And nobody's really gonna be saying anything about that. But we learned about that. But there was a Reddit user who put out a post who was basically going through saying his, issues that he feel like that might come up with Project L, Riot Games actually coming into the FGC. And some things he touched on was like how he feels like free to play, the free to play method might hurt a lot of the devs within the FGC. How the professionalism style that they bring could necessarily affect with the FGC grassroots. Will Riot Games be kind of a developer that will listen to the fans as much as places like Arc Systems has? And things of that nature. So to go off his post, are there any things that you guys feel like that you agree with any of the sentiments that you saw in his post, or are there just any of your own issues that you feel like might come with a bigger corporation like Riot Games coming into the FGC? So starting with you, Mr. Gamer.
So he has some solid points. I bit my tongue. First and foremost, what I want to touch on what he mentioned about the ranking system and stuff, how he compared it to like league and stuff. I can agree with that because it seems like even in Street Fighter 5, it's like this ranking system is very weird. It's like they have all these different sectors of like you got bronze, you got three versions of bronze, you got three versions of silver, three like to me, I feel like you just have it. Just why have all these subsections? Just make it bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, whatever. And I guess maybe it's because like you want to make people feel like they're making progress still. So like if you have a bronze tier, if a person can get to super bronze, then it's like oh they're like oh, I'm making progress. So as opposed to like going from bronze to silver, which might take longer, you don't see that jump just yet because you're not in silver. But if you add something like Super Silver, I can kind of see the logic behind that now that I think about it. But I still feel like they add too much with that, and that's going to be a big factor, I think, with a game like Project Ill. If it's going to have, I'm sure it's going to have some of those same kind of factors as like League and stuff, and like these mobile games and free to play format. That to me, I feel like it's something we might have to be concerned with, and also like I talked about Brawlhalla earlier. That's what I was talking about when I said we were going to go back to this. Brawlhalla is that type of game, and it's you get like maybe 10 characters at the start, and now Brawlhalla has like a lot of characters, and they have like a lot of skins for characters. But you have to buy all the rest of them, and these games work off like a in-game currency based system, or you just spend real money. But it takes so long to get like a lot of this currency sometimes that it's like, man, to get all these characters with just like in-game currency is gonna take me forever. So let's say you want to play a meta character or a different character you want to try out, it's probably gonna take you forever ever unless you just dish out actual money. Also, Fortnite is also another thing. It's a free to play thing, but look at how that does. It's doing well, but it's like you get like $20 for a skin. So I think that coming into like a fighting game could be a little detrimental. Or I'll say personally, I would rather not see it because it's like you spend $20 for a skin. Like there's literally nothing. It's just a skin. Like that's way too much. So if we get a free to play game, like you don't pay for it, so they might feel like, well, we can charge this much for a character, we can charge this much for a skin. Um, so those are probably the things that I read from his list of five that I probably saw the most concern in. Is like taking a fighting game and we already have. I know he mentioned like the DLC structure, like a game comes out and then announce the game and then the DLC is announced. It's like, well, why is this becoming a thing where now just like what's the point? Like just put this stuff in a game. You're gonna announce the game and then like DLC. So like just put it in the game. If you're gonna announce it at the same time. Now if you announce it later down the road, oh DLC coming, okay, that's cool. But if you're announcing it at the same onset of the game is announced, why not just give us that stuff when we pay for it initially? So I think those are my concerns for it. The whole thing about Riot coming into the FGC and making it more professional. I don't think there's anything wrong with just a little bit more professionalism, but I do see the concerns of people saying like, oh, it's going to take away the grassroots and the inclusiveness that the FGC has and its feel of it. And I will say I would like to see it kind of keep its, what has made it, the FGC for all these years. But I think there's some give and take. You can do a compromise. There's some things you can add and take. There's some things you can keep. But again, if a company like this big comes in, they might be able to say, well, hey, you can only do it this way. You can only say these things on stream. You can only say these things while commentating. So I can see some people having issues when we've done things for a certain way for so long. It'll probably take some adjusting to get used to. But yeah, like I said, I think from reading his list, those are probably my biggest issues. Just the whole like ranking system, and we know how important ranking system is in games, like especially in fighting games. If you're not a certain rank, then you're trash. So it's probably gonna like add another whole dynamic with like how important rank is to people, that type of thing, and then just the whole like format of like it is gonna be something where we can get characters and content with in-game currency at a fairly decent pace, or is it going to just take us like hours and hours and hours and hours of grinding, similar to Street Fighter 5? Street Fighter 5 is not a free-to-play game, and we see that formula. Like you get 50 fight money for a match. That's terrible. It takes 100. It takes 100 grand to buy a character. Like I think the lowest you can go like spending something is like what, maybe 5K, at least 1,000. So you're getting 50 fight money per match. That's ridiculous. It's gonna take you forever to raise enough fight money to buy something. So I really hope that they just stray away from that type of formula for this game. But again, it's gonna be free to play. So I'm looking at how other free to play formats are, where it's like you have an in-game currency, Fortnite, V-Bucks. In Fortnite, I will say it's kind of like acquiring V-Bucks in Fortnite is not that bad. But there are some games where like acquiring the in-game currency is just a headache. And it's like, well, why am I going to sit here and waste all this time when I can just open my wallet, spend real money, and get it anyway? So those were the things that I saw from that list to kind of, pique my interest in, like, I hope this doesn't cause an issue. So
I'll say on my end, there's quite a bit here, so I'll try to kind of go through them pretty quickly. Like the whole thing about free to play being a threat to other fighting games, I don't think so. Just because, I mean, we've had free to play fighting games before. I mean, we had KI that turned out pretty well for them. Now the way Riot does their thing, does their free to play, that's different from the way any other fighting game has done their free to play, if I'm not mistaken. And so it could shake things up. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I think as we stand right now, there's going to be a distinction between the way Riot does their fighting game and the way everybody else does their fighting game. Whether everybody else is going to be influenced by Riot, that's yet to be determined, and just something that we're going to have to wait and see on. In terms of esports, I feel like Riot is in a league of their own, no pun intended. But Riot has like their own ecosystem with their games. They in my opinion, I feel like they're going to do their thing regardless of whether the general FGC is on their side or not. So they're going to, the way they want to do esports, the way they want to do their commentary, the way they want to sponsor players and everything, that's all going to be off on its own. I don't think the way Riot focuses on esports is going to necessarily change the way Capcom or Tekken focuses on esports, unless Riot does just extremely well with this game. Like in terms of the commentary being softened, you're not gonna get the hard edge that you usually get with the FGC. That kind of stuff already happens. Like there's definitely a difference between the way commentary is done at like NLBC versus Evo, and so it just depends on what stage you're on as to how the commentary is going to be delivered. That sort of thing, it's already changed. There's no way around that. Are we going to get like golf level of commentary for this Project L game? I mean, like that's again one of those things that's yet to be determined. We'll just have to see how that plays out. Accessibility. So the same team that worked on Rising Thunder is now working on Project L, and it's safe to assume that Project L is probably going to play like Rising Thunder. I personally didn't play Rising Thunder, but I heard good things about the way that they did the controls. Like a lot of people, when they first heard about it, was like, oh, this game is going to be too easy, like, oh, one button inputs and directionals and everything. Oh, this is going to be just straight garbage. And turned out it actually worked pretty well, just based on what I've heard. I didn't play Rising Thunder, so I can't speak from personal experience, but I do think that the way Riot is going to approach controls in a fighting game, I think now that could be the very thing that could change the landscape of other fighting games. You know, we could see more simplified inputs in other fighters, and other fighters have already gone in that direction. Like we have Capcom with Street Fighter V, where Falk and Ed, they have simplified inputs, or like inputs where you just hold a button and everything. Um, we have auto combos in a lot of fighters now, you know, whether it's to the benefit or detriment of the game. We have uh yeah, like a lot of games have just become easier to play, just in hopes of reaching out to, you know, other people who don't normally play fighting games, who might be turned off by this sort of thing just because, oh, like doing a DP or doing a quarter circle is too hard. Not that I'm saying that those sort of things should go away. I do think that those controls should stay in place, but I think venturing out and trying different things in terms of how controls are done. I don't think just because it's always been done this way that we need to continue to do it that way. So if Riot comes in and shakes things up with the way controls and accessibility are done, then you know what, I'm all for it. You know, give it a shot, and if it's not for me, then it's not for me, and you know, we'll just move on from there. And like the last thing, I don't really have any concerns per se in terms of the game, because everything right now is just speculation. Like this game is probably like a year or two off. So we have no idea what Riot is planning with it, like how it's going to look, how it's going to play, or anything. We have like the little screenshots they showed us. We have an idea of the team that's working on it, like how they approach controls and accessibility. But other than that, everything's just up in the air, and we're just going to have to wait and see, you know, their approach for it. So I don't really have any concerns, and I'm just going to wait until I get my hands on the game and just go from there. And you know, we'll see if it's lit or if it's, well, trash. But Riot has a pretty good track record. So I mean, everything that they put out so far, they've put quality time in. Like Runeterra, people enjoy that. Of course, you have regular League of Legends, you have Valorant, and you have these other games that are coming up too. So right now, Riot is killing it, and I don't really have any doubts that they're probably going to kill it with the new fighting game that they're working on as well. So we'll just have to see what it's like and go from there.
Um, you know, topics like this are really, you know, my area. You know, what really interests me the most with the FGC, because it's kind of like a community, you know, issue. Um, you know, anytime somebody is coming from the outside of your group and they're trying to come within your group, you always have to wonder about, like, you know, their motives or their drive for doing what it is that they're doing. And you know, do they really have like the best interest of your community at heart? Now a lot of times we do have to understand that a lot of people's, you know, wants, needs, and desires are something that just necessarily can't happen, because at the end of the day, this is business, you know, which kind of hits on that grassroots point of just like, hey man, you know, when it comes to, you know, wanting to do this for a living, that's when you start talking about business, you know. When we talk about your big events and your things like that, like your evos, your combo breakers and stuff like that, hey, you know, that's business. This is what money is on the line and stuff like that, as far as like how much we invested to make this event happen for you. You know, we had to work with other people. We're trying to get sponsors. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. That's business. You know. So when it comes to like the grassroots stuff that you try to worry about, like, oh, you know, the professionalism and this and that, like, hey, if you want to keep that gritty grassroots feel, then, you know, make sure you keep attending your locals and your local monthlies, and you know, the things like NLBC, you know, those are like your bigger branded, like, you know, weeklies and monthlies and stuff like that. But when it comes to going into events like Street Fighter League, Combo Breaker, Evo, CEO, and stuff like that, hey man, you can't. It's understandable that we can't do that there. What we do over here. So basically, you have to you really do worry about the intentions and stuff for the group. And as far as his you know, the plights that he had or stuff he was writing about, with the free to play and stuff like that. I mean, if they come in and they shake stuff up and it's just like, oh, we prefer this over that now, Capcom, why don't you start being like, Riot and stuff like that? I could see that, but I don't really think that'll happen too much. I really don't think they'll be, because, we're so used to, how things are structured now. I mean, the most you could probably ask for them is just like, don't feel like you're highway robbing us. Kind of like Devin said, you announced it at the same time as the game. Just go ahead and release it, man. Like, like put it in with the game. Like you're saying, it's already done, and we're just not gonna give it to you because we want more money. Like that's basically what you're saying. But when it comes to like releasing stuff over, down the line as far as like DLC, I mean, unless you're kind of like Grand Blue, like the prices are just outrageous. The most I think we could ask for them is just like not change the whole system, but hey, maybe like lower your pricing and stuff like that. But like Devin said, you could pay $20 for a skin with the free to play thing. So each has their own pros and cons. You just have to choose which one that you feel like is more, less hurt. I'll say, you and your wallet cry less at night when you did this option rather than the other one. So I already kind of went over the professionalism. When you kind of get to these bigger games like $100,000 pot prize on the line, like, bro, why are we complaining that you can't like curse or you can't just be gritty or something like that? Like, bro, people are here making like $10,000 a spot. Like, come on. Like you can do it for this one day, for this one event. Um, will Riot listen? I hope they will. Because I mean, stuff like the way the Arc Systems is doing, has really, really been helping their game. So it just be in their best interest to listen. I mean, if they don't, I mean, they kind of just, shooting themselves. Um, so I can agree with some of his sentiments. Some things I can be like, that's just compromise when it comes to like doing business. Like not everything can just be fun and games all the time. No pun
Yeah.
intended. But it's just like, just come on, man. When you here to make money, like, be professional. Like if they're saying, well, hey, when you play my game, we don't want a lot of cussing, and stuff like that. Hey, kids are watching and stuff like that. Be understandable. And when you're going to events that allow that, then just make sure you attend those if you like those. Or start your own thing within the FGC. But when they first announced Project L, I was seeing people that was like, "Oh, we finna have $200,000 pop bonuses. I mean, $200,000 prize pools. I'm finna drop my game every game that I play and just play this full time because I'm just trying to, play games and make money full time." I mean, I feel like with ideologies like that, Riot could come in and do whatever they want because you just want the money.
Yep.
If you just want the money, they could do whatever they want because they dangling money in front of you. But if you really care about the foundation, what the FGC is known for and things like that, you'll fight to make sure they don't come in and do too much of like, changing stuff up too crazy. Like, like they walked in like, Dr. Doom kicked in the door with the Thanos glove on and was just like, "Oh, y'all go listen while I'm snapping," so I just I feel like they'll fight for the stuff we don't want to hold on to, but some stuff people just gotta learn. Like, hey, we gotta compromise. Like they coming in here, they creating opportunities for us. Like some stuff is just like you gotta know what's worth fighting for. So that's all I have. Anybody else have anything to add?